That's why your mind won't let go of the text you already sent. The tone in someone's voice, the tiny pause before they answered, the look on someone's face that lasted half a second but somehow stayed with you all day. Other people call it overthinking, like it's just a bad habit. But most of the time, it's not random. It's your brain trying to protect you from something it has learned can matter. Picture this. It's late. You should be asleep, but instead you're replaying a conversation like your mind is a courtroom and every word is evidence. You hear your own sentence again, and suddenly it sounds wrong. Too much. Too needy. Too cold. So you rewrite the moment in your head, searching for the exact second it went off. Meanwhile, your body is tired, your chest feels tight, and the night keeps moving while your thoughts stay frozen in one small scene. The painful part is that from the outside, this can look dramatic or indecisive. Inside, it feels nothing like that. Inside, it feels like responsibility. Like if you just think a little longer, notice one more detail, predict one more possibility, maybe you can prevent regret before it happens. And that's the first reframe. Overthinking is often not a flaw in your personality. It's an adaptation, a pattern. A mind that learned uncertainty has a cost, so now it tries to outrun that cost by staying one step ahead. The first layer of this is simple. You probably learned, somewhere along the way, that small things weren't always small. Tone mattered. Timing mattered. Moods shifted rooms. One sentence could change the whole atmosphere. So your brain became a kind of emotional weather app, constantly scanning for pressure changes before the storm hit. Psychologists sometimes call part of this hypervigilance, but in plain language, it means your attention got trained to notice what other people miss. The problem is, that skill doesn't turn off when the danger is gone. It keeps running in the background, like too many tabs open on a browser, draining energy even when nothing urgent is happening. You're not weak for this. You adapted to detail. But that's not the real reason it feels so exhausting. Here's where it gets deeper. Overthinking is often an attempt to create certainty in places where certainty doesn't exist. Your mind starts doing what it does best. It simulates. It imagines every possible outcome, every hidden meaning, every version of what someone might be feeling, and then treats all of them like open cases that need solving. It's like standing in front of 10 doors and trying to live behind each one before choosing. That sounds intelligent because, in a way, it is. You can see layers. You can sense subtext. You can imagine consequences. But intelligence without emotional safety can turn into mental overproduction. Research on rumination shows that the mind often mistakes repeated thinking for progress, even when it's just looping. So you sit there, feeling productive, while emotionally going nowhere. It looks like reflection. Inside, it's friction. And this is the part most people miss. A lot of overthinking is social. It's not just about what happened. It's about what it meant about you. You don't just replay the message. You replay the version of yourself that might have been revealed in it. Were you too eager? Too quiet? Too intense? Too distant? Too much? Not enough? So the mind starts editing your identity in real time. It becomes less about one awkward moment and more about self-protection. If you can just understand how you came across, maybe you can stay lovable. Maybe you can stay acceptable. Maybe you can avoid being misunderstood, rejected, embarrassed, or left. Most people misread this completely. They think you're obsessed with details. Usually, you're trying to manage emotional risk. That's why overthinkers often seem calm on the outside while carrying entire invisible negotiations on the inside. You're answering questions no one asked out loud. You're preparing for reactions that haven't happened. You're building emotional armor out of thoughts. And for a while, it can even feel useful. It can make you seem careful, perceptive, responsible. But that's only part of it. Because overthinking also has a hidden hope inside it. It believes that if you think enough, you won't have to feel as much. If you can explain the situation perfectly, map it perfectly, predict it perfectly, then maybe the emotion won't hit so hard. Maybe disappointment will feel softer if you saw it coming. Maybe rejection will hurt less if you rehearsed it first. But emotions don't work that way. They don't always shrink just because you anticipated them. Sometimes all that happens is you suffer twice, once in imagination and once in reality. Your nervous system acts like a smoke alarm set too sensitive. It's trying to protect the house, but it keeps screaming over burnt toast. You're not crazy for this. You're not broken. You're someone whose mind learned that preparation feels safer than surprise. And if you've been misunderstood before, blindsided before, embarrassed before, then of course your brain would choose prediction as a form of self-respect. Of course it would try to stay ahead. There's another layer too. Overthinking often happens in people who feel more than they show. You may look composed, even detached, but internally you absorb a lot. You notice tiny shifts in energy. You hear what wasn't said. You catch the almost invisible crack in someone's tone, and your mind starts building meaning around it. It looks like one thing. Inside, it's something else. What people call overthinking is often unspoken emotional processing with no off switch. And that creates the contradiction at the center of all this. You look uncertain, but you're actually trying to create certainty. You look hesitant, but you care deeply about getting things right. You look stuck in your head, but the truth is, you're often trying to protect your heart. That's why this trait feels so confusing. The outside doesn't match the inside. You seem like someone who can't let go. In reality, you may be someone who learned too early that letting go had consequences. Still, there's a gentle caution here. Because overthinking can quietly become avoidance in a smarter outfit. You tell yourself you're still processing, still considering, still making sure. But sometimes you're just circling the runway because taking off feels vulnerable. Thought can become a waiting room you live in, a very articulate way of postponing the moment you actually have to act, speak, choose, or trust. No shame in that, really. When your mind has protected you for this long, of course it doesn't want to loosen its grip. But not every thought deserves a trial. Not every feeling needs a forecast. Not every silence is a sign. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let a moment stay incomplete and not chase it down the hallway of your mind. Because the goal was never to become the kind of person who feels less. It was never to become careless. It was never to stop noticing. The deeper goal is gentler than that. To notice without drowning. To reflect without spiraling. To care without turning every uncertainty into a personal emergency. So, if you overthink everything, maybe the truth is not that your mind is against you. Maybe it has just been working overtime, trying to keep you safe in the only language it knows. Thought. Rehearsal, analysis, control. And once you see that, something shifts. You stop treating yourself like a problem to solve and start seeing yourself as a person who adapted beautifully, even if the adaptation became heavy. Sometimes healing doesn't start when you finally stop overthinking. Sometimes it starts the moment you realize your mind was never trying to ruin your life. It was trying to protect a sensitive part of you that got very good at staying alert. And that deserves compassion, not embarrassment. So, tell me honestly, when you overthink, are you mostly trying to prevent pain or trying to prevent being misunderstood? If this hit close, the next thing to understand is why some people feel everything deeply but barely show it.